I'm Joel McCower, talking about what will it take for aviation to be sustainable with Angela Foster Rice, Senior Vice President at Everland and former Head of Sustainability at United Airlines. Angela, from your perspective of 15 years in the industry, how would you describe the aviation industry's sustainability journey at this point?
Back in 2008, the industry made very aggressive carbon reduction goals. I think it's done a really terrific job of keeping its commitment. So we still need to see where is the industry going and can it meet those growing expectations?
How would you describe business travelers' expectations of airlines when it comes to sustainability these days?
Something like 65% of customers are now making decisions on whether companies are helping them, with their ethical beliefs, such as about the environment. So all that's to say, yes, there's a growing demand and interest by both business customers, but also with your general consumers around airlines needing to reduce the footprint in order to help them reduce their footprint.
So how are airlines doing? Are you seeing any encouraging signs?
Joel, absolutely we're seeing that engagement by airlines. One of the key pieces here to the puzzle is reducing the carbon within the fuel, the liquid fuel. There's been great innovations and airlines have engaged to really make that happen. But also customers want emission reductions today. We're already seeing customers' interest going beyond what CORSIA demands of airlines. It really comes down to what do your stakeholders want, and are you ready for them? Another piece of the puzzle is engaging around carbon offsets and helping customers be able to do that easily.
Angela, buying carbon offsets can be extraordinarily complex. There's different types of offsets at different price points. What advice would you give to a company in terms of thinking about how to buy offsets?
I think you first start with, is the offset following a globally recognized standard around offsets? There's a few key examples out there in the voluntary market, like the verified carbon standard or the gold standard.
What's the risk for airlines for waiting, for letting others be the first movers?
I think the risk is pretty high. If you're looking at how much fuel is out there to buy that's low carbon, there's very small quantities. And so as an airline, you could wait and say, well, the fuel's not here, so therefore I can't buy it. But the truth of the matter is that it's actually in reverse. If the airlines don't demand it and don't put their skin in the game and actually commit to long-term offtakes, then the facilities won't be built.
What do we need to do to break that cycle or accelerate it, the solutions?
There's not fairness in regard to incentives for sustainable aviation fuel versus renewable fuel for trucks and cars. And that really comes to policies. What kind of state, federal, local policies? Where we're seeing the biggest improvements and growth is in California, where you have a couple different incentives that are available. I think we really need to see that grow. And then in regard to the carbon offset side, I think that really comes down to the fact that airlines in particular don't really have a balance sheet to do the purchasing and invest in offsets. And I think that we are seeing a lot more corporate companies, as we've talked about, and their commitments to addressing climate change. If they can come forward and partner with airlines and with fuel suppliers to look at the entire supply chain, who's going to pick up that piece of offsetting? It's probably going to be all three of those pieces to really come forward and ensure that the offsetting occurs.
Why shouldn't we simply wait for aviation technology to solve this problem for us?
We need to be engaging in technology, and we are. But the problem is that the larger footprint around aviation is in those longer flights, and it's really the smaller flights that will be enabled by these technologies, at least in several decades to come. But if you look at aviation and solving the carbon piece, 80% of the carbon emissions from aviation are for flights that are over 1,000 miles. So there's really not the ability to just change in those technologies. We can't wait for those technologies. We really need to engage on what's dropping today, which is SAF.
So Angela, looking ahead a few years, what's the virtuous cycle that we want to get into where success begets even more success in decarbonizing aviation?
I think when people can really understand the impact they're having, it has to be something that's a tangible product that people believe in, and they get regular reports about, what impact they've had. Like if somebody has helped to buy SAF or has bought offsets, to be able to be communicated with about what impact they had with that flight, with that year that they've decarbonized, so they can really believe and understand, the change that's happening because of those purchases.
Thanks so much, Angela.
Thank you, Joel. Thanks for the opportunity to talk today.